Hi, and welcome back to Sit With Me. I'm so grateful for each of you that keep showing up here. I'm honestly so surprised that people keep saying that they're listening to this, which makes me so happy and inspired to keep finding really awesome people to share their stories with us. So I'm grateful for those of you that are here. And I know a lot of you have been asking and reaching out about the in-person events, and I'm sorry those haven't been happening, and they will continue to not happen as I'm going out of state for the summer, but look forward to hosting those again in August, and I'll already have some things on the calendar. So we'll look forward to those in August. If you have people that you are hopeful or interested in listening to, please reach out to me. I'd love to connect and hear about the people in your lives and the stories that are in your life. So we look forward to those. Today we get to hear from Abby. Abby is a mother and now full-time caregiver, as you'll hear her talk about. She's had 2 children that have been medically complex. Her first daughter had retinoblastoma, and her third daughter, who she'll talk a lot about, has congenital CMV, which has really impacted her health and her life, and now Abby's family's life as well. So I've learned so much from Abby. I've learned about the medical nuances and how tricky it can be to be in that space, and I'm really excited for you to be able to learn a little bit more from her. So with that, let's jump in.
I'm Abby Withrich. I grew up in Midway, Utah. My husband and I met at school at BYU, and we have been married for 8 years this year. We've got 4 kids, and now I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Very busy stay-at-home mom. It seems
Taking
like
care of 4 kids. So
it's a good life.
it is. It's honestly what I've always wanted to do, so can't
Dreamy.
complain.
Dreamy.
Dream job.
Okay, I've just been so curious about some of the experiences that you've had with your kids. I think everyone would really benefit from your story and what you're really navigating. Yeah.
Okay. When our daughter Adel was 4 months old, she went in for her 4-month checkup, and the pediatrician was taking quite some time looking at her eyes, and immediately I knew something was up. And he had me come over, look at it, and sure enough, I could see what he was seeing. It was a white reflection instead of red. So when you take a photo and you have the red eye reflex, hers was white.
And you hadn't noticed before.
I had not noticed anything with her. And so immediately he just sent us to a specialist. And if we couldn't get into a specialist that day, call him because we needed to be seen. So I knew immediately it was something urgent. Called my husband, had him come home from work. I Google searched what it meant. Lovely Dr. Google. And it came up retinoblastoma. I had never heard of it before, but immediately I just had that gut instinct. That's what it was. So I called him, you need to come home from work. I need you to come to this appointment with me. We have an appointment in 2 hours. And sure enough, we went. That's exactly
so
what
scary.
it was. So as a new mom, she's 4 months old, you're still trying to get used to being a parent. Like newborn, just all of the things that come with being a parent. First time.
Yeah.
And now this was thrown in. And it was, honestly, most of that, I don't really remember a lot of that first week because, I don't know, it maybe my body's response to trauma.
Yeah.
Blocked it out.
It's gone.
It's gone.
We don't know what happened.
No. The first probably 10 days post official diagnosis, I don't remember. But it was hard because we were having so many doctors call us. Like different doctors for like chemo, hospitals, MRIs, just trying to schedule everything. And I just remember being so overwhelmed. Where do I even start?
Yeah.
What is priority right now?
What is, say it again?
Retinoblastoma.
Retinoblastoma. Because you said chemo, so explain, is it a form of cancer?
It is a form of cancer, yeah. Okay. So she had a tumor on the retina of her eye. So it's like the back part. Your eye is a sphere. So it's like the back portion, the inside of her eye on the back.
Interesting.
And so that's why when you use a camera and it flashes red, because the back of your eye, you just red.
Oh, interesting.
The blood vessels, all of that.
So you were seeing the tumor.
We were seeing the tumor.
Interesting. So she was born with a tumor.
2 months. 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 2 mon
we think.
They guess. I don't know. We don't know officially because you can't really.
Yeah.
The only way really to diagnose it is if you see it.
Yeah.
And we did MRIs to see, because retinoblastoma can be so scary. It can be in one eye, it can be in two, or it can be in the pituitary gland in your brain too. So luckily with her, given the scenario, it was best case for her. She had unilateral, so just in one eye. If it's bilateral, it's usually genetic. And at that point, you're dealing with possibly multiple different types of tumors in the future just because it's in your genetics. And so with her, it was just some random freak.
By chance.
Yeah. Crazy, but
so
we're
what would
grateful.
happen if you didn't catch it, the tumor continues to grow, and then you would catch it at one point, or not, because she's 4 months old and she would just not expect to see out of one eye? Or would it you have to remove the eye?
Yes, a lot of kids have to remove their eye.
And is it common in kids, or is it more common in adults?
No, it's a childhood cancer.
Oh, what?
So they usually see it before age 5.
What?
Sometimes they'll see it after, but it's only pretty much in kids.
Weird.
And so a lot of the times they remove the eye. We were given that option with her, but we obviously wanted to try everything before we had to get to that point.
Yeah.
So even now, she went through 3 rounds of intraarterial chemo, which is they went up through her femoral artery and put a catheter through her femoral artery through her heart and into her eye. And they administered the chemo that way. But it's crazy because she had that 3 times, and then they did laser therapy too. And with the chemo, all of the chemo that's gone through her body is less than a teaspoon.
Whoa.
So she never lost eyelashes, which they said could have happened. Eyelashes, eyebrows, nothing. And she's only 6, so we don't really know if there's other effects of the chemo that she has.
Yeah.
With, obviously.
Do they expect long-term effects? They don't know.
They don't know. It's fairly new.
Okay.
I don't want to get the statistics wrong, but I want to say within the last 20 years, it's not
this treatment,
this particular type of chemo. Yeah. So it's like general chemo. It's the same type of chemo that kids get systemically through their body, but they only do such a small amount, just administering it right into the eye.
That's amazing, honestly.
So there was one doctor that did it in New York, and they're the ones that pioneered the whole program. And then they've taught various doctors now, but we went to New York, because we wanted to go straight to the source, the professionals. And I mean, she's doing great.
So that was so how long was that experience?
From start to
Remission, not worrying about it anymore. Maybe you still are worrying about it, I don't know.
She goes back every year for checkups, just to keep an eye on it to make sure, because we didn't remove her eye and her tumor is still there.
Oh, okay.
So the only way to get rid of the tumor is to remove the eye. And we didn't want to do that because we were able to kill the tumor. So essentially it's dead, but they just keep an eye on it to make sure nothing happens.
And she'll do that every year for maybe the rest of her life?
Yeah, or they usually say till they're 18. And then once she hits that point, then she can decide obviously what she wants to do. But there's eye doctors here that can check that just in her eye exams.
And what was it like for her? So how long was she doing chemo for?
She did chemo 3 rounds, and it was 3 months.
Oh, 3 months. Okay, so she doesn't remember this.
No. That was when she was 5, 6, 7 months. And then at that point, she started doing just laser therapy. And so I think she did that until January of 2020. So she would have been a year old at that point.
Okay.
And so she hasn't had any treatment done since then. But they've just watched for it. And they usually say 4 or 5 years after that last treatment. So last January of 2024, we finally got the green light. She's in remission, and there's less than 1% chance of it coming back.
Oh, wow.
So we're just
fingers crossed.
Fingers.
Yeah. So I think one other thing that I feel like take a huge toll is, what did this look like financially and insurance-wise? Was that something scary to navigate?
Insurance was a nightmare. I do remember, and we were rushing. Like, this cancer is scary.
Yeah.
It grows fast. We found it on a Monday. She went in Thursday for an actual, like, under anesthesia, let's take pictures. They took pictures. The next week, we got everything approved very quickly, which is actually unheard of. And we were in New York by Monday or Tuesday of the next week. So it had just been, like, seriously 1 week since she was diagnosed. And Wednesday, she went in for more photos in New York. And by that time, it had doubled in size. And the scariest part is it is so close. Like, your eye is so small and it grows so fast. And if it goes through your optic nerve, that's when it travels straight to your brain. And after that, it's game over. Yeah.
What?
So it grows so fast. Once you catch it and you can see that it's growing, it is insane. So I'm not sure if she was born with it or if it just decided to grow and then just took off. But
doubled in size
in 1 week. Yeah.
What if you had not gone to your appointment? I don't ever go to my appointments. Now I should go.
Honestly, check your kids' eyes.
What? This is wild.
Yeah, it was pretty insane, very scary. And we sat in the unknown for that week. Yeah. What do we do? Where are we going? So New York, obviously, luckily we had great insurance. Okay. And the doctor that was seeing her, the cancer specialist, who only takes care of this type of cancer, he was in our out-of-network benefits. Thank goodness.
Somehow.
Yes. But the hospital and the chemo and that specific doctor who does the chemo was not. Oh. And so we had to get pre-approval from our insurance to be able to go out there. I don't even know how it happened. Prayers, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Was what got us to that point. But it's expensive. We obviously, thank goodness, we only had to hit our out-of-pocket max. But getting the bills from the hospital.
Scary.
Oh my gosh. Just one round of chemo. And all the hospitals, they bill separately. The doctors bill separately. So we're getting bills left and right. And it was just, how are we going to afford this?
Yeah.
How are we going to afford this? And I thought it was bad then.
I was going to say, now it's probably very different.
Oh, yeah. Yes, very much.
Okay, so, yeah, anything else with Adel that you feel would be helpful for people to understand?
Her situation, it was, here's a scary diagnosis, here's a plan. We had a pretty good prognosis, and let's just move forward and go for it.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much, this is your path, this is what you're going to do, and she'll be great.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we never really had to ask questions about what should we do, what should we do? Only really at the beginning of what kind of treatment is the best.
Yeah.
Do we do the intra-arterial? Do we do systemic? What's the best thing for her? Because with babies, they have to be a certain weight, and she was barely that weight when we went to New York. So that was probably just the hardest thing, was like that, and then everything was just laid out for us.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
There were professionals already working, figuring it out.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe the next experience you'll share with us is a little bit less so that way.
Very much.
Okay, so tell us about Sela.
Okay, so our third daughter was born, and she was born full term. Pregnancy was great, never had any complications, never
Suspected anything
except her 20-week ultrasound. When I went in, they checked all of the measurements and everything, and her head was a little bit small. But that could be due to a lot of things, the positioning of the baby, and that's what they thought it was. So they just said, come back in 2-3 weeks, we'll do it again. Didn't really think anything of it. Went back, and still measuring small. It was like 2-3 weeks behind the rest of her body, which is odd because my kids have massive heads. 90 percentile. And her head was definitely not that. I think it was like 20 something. Oh, wow. And I was like, okay, this is weird. I went on Google again.
Google's the best and worst.
And it said microcephaly. I read about it. I was just like, they didn't say anything like that in my ultrasound. I feel like if it would have been a big issue, they would have said something. And I'm like scrolling through my microcephaly, and CMV popped up. I'm like, okay, read it. Okay, she has no other signs of CMV. That's not, can't be it. But I know, gut feeling, something is not right. But I guess we'll just find out when she's born. go through the rest of my pregnancy, no complications, feeling great. Go in, have the baby. Her birth was my easiest, fastest. It's great. Then they take her downstairs to the, I don't know, what do they call it? Recovery rooms, I guess.
Yeah.
And the nursery. And they just brought up CMV. And they were like, yeah, you just always test these babies if their head is less than 10%. And hers was 6.
And what was her body? Like
Normal.
Oh, so it did like...
It didn't look...
She didn't look off.
She didn't look not proportional, disproportionate.
Yeah. Honestly, they look disproportionate in head the other way. Like, babies' heads are big.
Yeah.
So I guess...
But she looked fine.
Normal.
There were nothing that was like red flags.
Yeah, okay.
So, anyways, they test her, and obviously I'm freaking out a little bit.
Because you had read about it.
I had read a tiny bit. I didn't really dig into it much, but then after they said, hey, we're going to test her for CMV, I started pulling it. I got very bad. And the doctor told me, like, don't look anything up.
They told you that and you still did.
Yeah, it was just like, don't get worried about this. We have babies that are tested for this every day. They never come back. And
So they are testing for this every day. It's something that they are aware of. And like,
they are, yes, if they have signs of it. So it's not every baby that comes through the hospital they're testing for it.
Okay.
It's just if they see a red flag, then they'll test. So any baby who has a head less than 10%, they'll test.
Okay.
Any baby who has like a certain rash, they'll test, or whatever it is. If they see issues with the spleen or the liver, they'll test.
Okay.
So she was born in the evening and we had overnight. So I'm just in newborn bliss.
Yeah.
Clueless to what was
to
to
hit you.
come.
Yeah.
And I remember my pediatrician, who I love him so much. He came in and I asked him, I'm like, has their test come back yet? He's like, why did they test her for that? I'm like, her head size. He's like, I'm sure she's fine.
Oh,
I'm
no.
like, please don't say that to me.
Don't get my hopes.
Our luck. Because he's the one who found Adel's cancer. So I'm like, our luck, don't say anything.
Yeah.
Then, sure enough, the test comes back positive. So she's born with something they call congenital CMV. And
What's the percentage of children that get that?
I don't know.
I'm looking up.
It's super common. The virus itself is so common.
It
Like,
is.
So common. But the kids who are born with it, like congenital CMV, every 1 in 200 babies, I think, is born.
Literally, as you said that,
Yeah.
Google pulled it up. So 0.5%.
So 1 in every 200 babies born with congenital CMV. Of that, it's going to be 1 of every 5, I believe, is going to have symptomatic CMV.
Oh.
So 40 of the 200 kids are going to have symptomatic CMV.
Symptomatic?
Yep. So the other 4 of those 5 will be asymptomatic, meaning they have no symptoms of CMV when they're born. So they could know, they wouldn't have any idea. Oh my gosh, they were born with CMV, they wouldn't test for it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, of course, Stella is one of the 5, I guess. And so they just started running random tests like crazy because they said, don't leave. I had my bags packed. I was ready to leave the hospital.
yeah.
And they walked in, you can't leave. Sorry, we need you to stay one more day because if you leave, it will be so much harder to get these tests done. They came and checked her eyes. So it attacks your eyesight, your ears, and then...
So is it a virus?
It is a virus.
Okay.
So for us, it would be like a common cold.
Yeah.
And I had thinking back to my pregnancy, I don't ever remember being sick.
And if you were to go in the doctor and get tested, would they test you like, oh, you have CMV?
They can. They'll test you for antibodies of it.
Who does that? I've never heard of an adult getting tested. But also,
I don't know.
Adults
Like,
don't usually go in for a cold.
your OB could test when
Okay.
you're pregnant. And that's what...
So you have to get it in what you said, your first trimester? Or just anytime when you're pregnant?
Anytime when you're pregnant. So how it works is CMV is very common. Most kids have it before they're 5. So they call it a daycare type virus. It's very common in daycares just because it's passed through bodily fluids. So saliva, urine, all the fun things that you deal with kids. And so I have no idea how I got it, but it very well could have come from my kids who were at preschool and brought it in.
Yeah. But you're saying like most people get it. It's just like the timing of when you get it, but also then something has to happen for it then to be symptomatic in the birth of in the child.
For it to be congenital CMV and cause issues,
Yes.
You have to get it the very first initial infection ever in your entire life during pregnancy.
So if I already had it.
If you already had it and you're pregnant, you don't really need to worry about it.
It's just getting it for the first time.
Very first time during pregnancy.
And if you get it for the first time during pregnancy, is there a 100% chance that your child will have issues?
Not guaranteed. It could be one of the 5.
One of the 5.
Yeah. So your child will have congenital CMV, so it will be one of the 200. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, at the end of the day, this is actually happening way more than we think.
Oh, yeah.
But
they just don't test for it.
Yeah. And they don't necessarily need to because there's no symptoms.
If they don't see it.
Yeah.
So that's why, for me now, given the situation I've been in, I'm advocating so much, test every baby for CMV. Because if they have it and you don't know, and they're 10 months old and not meeting milestones, you've missed out on 10 months of support that your child could have had.
Oh, interesting.
So we're lucky that Sella was diagnosed at the very beginning of life because she has now had 2+ years of services, whereas before it might have been 10 months old, 12 months old when she's not hitting milestones, not walking, not sitting up, not whatever the milestone is that they're trying to hit. And you've missed out on all of those services.
Okay, I'm learning so much. Okay, let's go back to you say congenital CMV is a virus in it. You were saying it attacks.
It attacks vital organs, so your eyes, your ears, and then it can, obviously your brain. Your brain is a huge one.
Okay.
And then like your spleen or your liver, things like that, kids can have difficulty with those
And that
organs.
will happen her whole life. This virus is going to be attacking.
The virus dies out.
The virus dies.
Yeah, so it goes dormant in her body.
Okay.
It just caused so many issues for her because it was in my first trimester that I got sick.
So she had the whole pregnancy.
So the whole time she's developing all of her
Yeah.
organs, they're being attacked by this virus.
And if you had found out earlier, they can't test it though.
They could have tested me for antibodies.
Because if you had known that you had CMV before, you wouldn't need to really worry about it. But if you hadn't known, or if you didn't have it, you knew that you didn't have it, and then you got pregnant and then tested, you would know that it was your first time getting it. That's why you're advocating, even before you get pregnant, like just test for it, and so you know where what's your status is.
It's just a simple blood test, a blood draw. So even at the beginning of your pregnancy, you will usually get blood tests done anyway, right? So ask them to throw it on in there. Can you test to see if I've ever had CMV or if I have antibodies for it? If I don't, now I know to be extremely aware.
Yeah.
Don't share utensils, drinks, chapstick, anything that touches a bodily fluid, do not share.
Yeah, okay.
So this baby's on the lips, like little kids.
Yeah.
Things like that. Because that's how it gets passed. Some things, too, are unavoidable. You can't really avoid it, but at least you're aware.
Yeah. So if you had found out, if you had known all of this, can they do anything? Could they have done anything for Sella in utero? Or not really? It's just like, now we know and we'll be prepared.
That's a tricky one because they do have antivirals that they can give you. But depending on when they catch it, the damage may have already been. Yeah. And I don't even really know how well the antivirals work or if what it does to a pregnant woman with a baby who's been infected with CMV. I'm not sure. No.
Okay. All right. So back to that. Sella's born. They're running all these tests. You've stayed there a day.
Yeah, so they did the ultrasound. Everything in her brain ultrasound looked pretty good. They did see she had slightly enlarged ventricles in her brain. And they told us that could mean something or it could mean nothing. And what, like, the biggest worry was cerebral palsy with that. So we knew that could be a reality for her. Her eyes looked great, and they've looked great. So we're really grateful for that. It has not, or did not attack her eyes, yes.
Okay.
Her hearing, she had complete hearing loss. So profound loss on both sides. But luckily with that, they have things that you can do for that. She, at 9 months old, got bilateral cochlear implants. And so we've been doing that. Sign language.
So you had to learn another language.
Yeah, got to learn another language, which has been fun. And it's also awesome because it's opened up such an amazing doors to a whole nother world that I don't really think we would have
ever touched.
Ever touched.
Yeah.
And not only for me and my husband, but for our kids. And now our kids see these kids who like may have a hearing aid or cochlear implant or use sign language as their primary language, and they don't see any difference. Like it's just life for them.
Interesting.
And so that's been really cool to see and to introduce them into not everyone's life looks the same.
Yeah.
And here you go.
Yeah. Was it hard for them? Are they still pretty young that it was just like, this is fun?
Yeah.
To learn a new.
How old were they? Almost 4 and 2.5. So 3 and 2 when she was born.
Okay.
And I don't know. Life was so chaotic and busy and crazy. She had so many appointments every single day.
Oh my gosh.
The first 2 months of her life, I think we had an appointment every single day.
Oh my gosh.
So I just felt bad for them. I'm like, sorry, here, go hang out with this family or go to grandma and grandpa's house or whatever.
So you had a good support in taking care of your kids.
Oh, yeah.
That was able to work.
Yes. Our neighborhood was amazing. Everybody stepped in immediately as soon as we were like, we need help. This is not doable by ourselves. Obviously, we need support. And immediately everybody stepped in. And they continue to do. We have a great support system. Without that, I don't know if we would have survived or would be surviving.
Was that stressful at all?
I'm no professional by any means. A very basic sign language to communicate with a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And even with Sella, she will watch the sign language, but I don't know how much she understands just because she has some pretty significant brain damage. So visually, she can watch it, but what is she processing? Yeah.
Okay.
So
and if she has
been
cochlear
tricky.
implants, how much can she, do we know how much she can hear?
She can hear everything, but again, what is she processing and understanding? We have no idea.
So do you still sign to her? Treat me like I'm an idiot. Why would you sign to her if she can hear?
Just because she's such a visual learner.
Okay.
Honestly, we don't really know how much she's understanding of what we're saying to her. She's just happy to be alive and hanging out. We'll continue, obviously, to speak to her and to sign to her, but sometimes she gets overwhelmed by the sound. It's so much that we'll take her cochlears off and then she can see what we're saying to her. So that's why we chose to do both. And she was a baby, so I didn't really know what she would be able to understand given later in her life. And so we just thought, why don't we just do the cochlear implants? If she doesn't want them, she can take them off.
Yeah.
And then we'll also learn sign language. So if she wants to do sign language, she can do that. And then we have both that we can use. So that's why we went that route. But I don't know. Learning sign language, yes, it was very intimidating and hard. I'm not great with languages, but it's been fun.
So what has life looked like since then? And so she started to not hit milestones.
Yeah.
And you already knew that. But you were saying you had, to someone else that found this 10 months later, you had 10 months up on someone. What was it that you were doing?
So the state provides services, early intervention services for kids under the age of 3. And so with her being diagnosed with CMV and having hearing loss, and we were lucky that we had that because then we were able to immediately start services. And they came in and just immediately started physical therapy, occupational therapy, feeding therapy, speech therapy, all the things. So the state has been providing services for her from the very beginning. Wow. Which has been awesome because you only have 3 years to take advantage of those services, and then they have to wait until they go to school to get the services.
So where is she at now? She can sit up. Can she?
She can't.
She can't sit
No.
up. You said she's 2?
She's 2.
Okay.
Yeah, she's 2.5. She struggles sitting up on her own. We've been working so hard, and she's getting so much better and so much stronger, but it's just the damage to her brain has caused so many issues for her, and her cerebral palsy is pretty prominent, and it's made it really difficult for her to do just a lot of the daily tasks that any baby can do. She just started to roll more.
Wow.
Learning, she's working so hard on army crawling. It's really hard for her, but she's working really hard on that. She's not super mobile, but she's improving so much, and even given the diagnosis from the beginning and what they gave us as
what she'd be able
hope
to do.
for her for later was not great. So she has surpassed what they had even told us she would be able to do.
But no communication.
No.
So like army crawling because she maybe wants to get to something.
Or just wants to be independent.
Just wants to move.
There's a lot of awesome devices out there for these kids that help them be super independent, can move around, mobile communication devices, but it is so hard to get them into your hands. It is extremely expensive.
I was going to ask, is it expensive? Does insurance cover anything?
A lot of the times, insurance will say that it's not like a necessity. It's, what is the term that they, an elective. Like even her cochlear implant surgery was considered an elective surgery.
Really?
And so we had to go through a trial process for 6 months with hearing aids, which we knew weren't going to do anything for her.
But just to say,
tried
this thing.
Yeah. So it's really hard, and it's so sad to see that they make these families and these individuals go through so much just to get help.
Yeah.
That comes naturally and easily for any kid who was not born with disabilities. So
yeah, you're like, I'm already going through so much. Why do I have to try hearing aids for 6 months?
We already know it's not going to do anything for her, but in order for insurance to even consider paying for it, we'll try this. Yeah. And even kids that are just like Sella, their insurance still does not approve cochlear implants. So if they chose to go that route, they would pay out of pocket for it.
I can't imagine what that costs.
Like $300,000 probably.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That was, I think, when we got the bill back for Cella's, it was about that much. And thank goodness insurance pays for it. And we were responsible to pay the out-of-pocket max.
So that is one thing I keep thinking about is for those that navigate a space like this, like you just don't even think about the stress and financial weight that it causes, but then just have to figure out, okay, where am I going to get what my needs are? Do I have to go to a different state? Do I have to travel? Do I have to go to a different country? The things that are like weighing on your mind that I don't have to think about. Yep. I just think it's important to take into consideration.
Yeah. And the hard thing too is what is going to help my child the most? But I think I said it earlier, but what's priority here? And at what point is it too much? And at what point am I not doing enough?
Yeah.
Is how I was feeling. And even just recently, we were running into the issue. She ended up with RSV at 3 months old, and she was on a ventilator for 3 weeks. And we had that hospital bill, and she wasn't getting the support she needed at one hospital, and they had to life flight her to a different hospital. And so then we had 2 hospital bills and a life flight bill coming in. And then once we hit that point, we knew that was going to weaken her immune system.
Oh.
And that we were going to run into breathing issues and respiratory issues later on just because she got it so young. Now she's going to deal with respiratory things the rest of her life.
Really?
And yeah. And so the next year, I had a surprise baby, and she got the RSV vaccine. It was not available the year before, or else I think, given Cella's situation, I would have given it to her. After going through that whole situation with Cella, they came out with this RSV vaccine. I was not willing to take chances. I just didn't even care. And Gwen, our youngest, we gave her the RSV vaccine, and I asked if they would give it to Cella. And they said no. You have to meet qualifications. You have to be like a certain age.
Oh.
And our insurance would not pay for her to get the RSV vaccine, even though she was medically complex, had been on a ventilator for 3 weeks the year prior, all of the things, which didn't make sense to me because if I was an insurance company, I think I would want to pay $900 or $400 or whatever the cost was for the vaccine, then have to fork out money of a 3-week hospital stay on a ventilator.
Yeah.
But again, I don't have a say. I could have paid out of pocket for it $1,000. So they just told us, wait until she has Medicaid. If she gets approved for Medicaid, Medicaid will pay for it. And we waited months. By the time she got approved for Medicaid, it was now no longer RSV season, and there was no point in us getting it for her. So they just said, wait till next year.
Oh, no.
Now we are at last fall. She just turned 2. I asked them, can you give her the vaccine? They said that they have to be younger than 2. So now we have missed the time period to give her the vaccine of when my insurance will pay for it. So I was just stuck in the middle. Luckily, we did find a doctor who was willing to go to bat for us and talk to our insurance, and it really wasn't an issue with insurance. As soon as we gave them the scenario, they just said, yeah, we'll pay for it. So she got the vaccine this year. And
Oh, good. Yeah.
And as a mom, it's exhausting because not only am I a mom to her, now I'm her caregiver.
Yeah.
And we aren't really offered caregiving services. If it was something that we wanted, like support or whatever, we're paying for it.
No off days. And you have 3 other kids that have your need your attention. And
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that now going through this situation, I'm like, there are a lot of things that need to change.
Yeah.
And these families deserve more support. These kids deserve more support. And I feel like as a mom, if I can't be my very best as a mom, I can't be my very best as a caregiver to support her in her extreme needs.
Yeah.
And so that for me is really hard. Luckily, like I said, we have great support. And so we are able to, there's a lot of help around us that provide that support. And my husband and I have figured out a great tag team system.
I was going to ask, how has that impacted your marriage? But before I ask that, I think of all the people that don't have the support system that you have. I mean, I know half of your family and how supportive they are. Like someone that, I don't know what your husband's job is, but people that are single parents or that don't have a spouse that has a good job or good insurance, like, how do they even navigate it? They just take what they can get. You know what I mean? Anyway.
I know. We are extremely blessed because both of us are able to, he goes to work, he has a great job, great insurance, and I'm able to stay home and be with her 24/7. Have that not been the situation, I'm not really sure what we would have done.
Yeah. And that's not to minimize, obviously, what you're doing because it's still extremely hard.
Oh.
But I'm just thinking, Yeah.
If
you had a full-time job and trying to navigate this, calling insurance is a full-time job. I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, doing
or like doctors, all of this stuff. You're probably on the
appointments.
You need 2 phones.
No, bro. I just said I need a personal secretary. Actually, I need them making the appointments.
Yes.
Taking notes from the appointments.
Trying to
I just need someone else to do that portion so that I can be mom.
Yes. No.
If anyone knows any service out there, please let me know because
let's get you a remote VA.
I would love that. No.
Okay. Yeah. What has the impact had on your family, your kids, your marriage? And how have you navigated that?
It obviously is hard. No one ever goes into life thinking, I'm going to have a child with disabilities that's going to require so much from me. And obviously, it wasn't anything that I was expecting that I would have to go through, but it's brought my husband and I closer. Starting with Adel's situation, I think it prepared us for this because it was just us 2 and her at the beginning, and so we really had to lean on each other. Our marriage was strengthened so much through that, just relying on each other. And our family too, our extended family really had to rally around us to support her with that. And then now given something that's more extreme than Adel's situation and something that's lifelong and we'll never have a cure or never have a clear answer or clear path that we're taking. It's just so cloudy, and we're really just wading through, trying to just figure out our way through it. And it strengthened our marriage. My kids there's really something special about siblings who have siblings that are disabled or have special needs or medically complex. There's something so special about those kids, really, because they are the spokesmen for their sibling. They're
hype people.
Yeah, they're the ones that are really carrying them through life and advocating for them and supporting them. And so it's been a really unique experience. And given everything going on in the world and how it just everything feels so heavy, I really do think the one thing that has mostly like saved our family and kept us tight knit, not just our immediate family, but extended family all coming together, has been Sella. She's the thing that is really keeping us together.
She's the glue.
Yeah, she's saved us. So I just think if you take the time to sit with these kids or sit with these individuals and just be with them, you'll see this is how they communicate. This is how you will feel connected to them. And that's with Sella, like anyone who meets her. She may not be able to communicate verbally with you. You immediately look into her eyes and she knows you, she loves you, she sees you, and she will, like, you are immediately connected to her. And I don't know, she's seriously the closest thing to heaven on this earth. Like, seriously, she is an angel. I was just thinking the other day, could I see my life any different? And at times, yes, I wish. Like, no one wants to see their child suffer. No one wants to see them go through these hardships. And obviously, you as a person don't ever want to feel like sad or hurt or like disappointed. But I could never imagine my life any other way because of her situation has shaped me to be who I am, has shaped our family to be the way they are, has shaped mine and my husband's relationship that nothing else could have ever done.
Yeah.
And I think any person who has met Sella would say the same thing. Like, she has shaped who they are and has made them see life differently than they ever did before. And they probably wouldn't have ever experienced that or been able to see life in the way that they see it now.
That's beautiful.
So
I need to come meet Sella.
yes, you do.
We all do.
She is one of a kind, that is for sure.
Oh, man.
She's been great.
So the future's unknown.
Yeah.
Will she ever be able to sit up? Will she? We don't know.
We
So
don't
she'll be
know.
with you.
We'll be her caretakers
You'll be her
for life.
caretakers
Yeah,
for life.
she'll be with us until.
Is she easy to leave with a babysitter? Yes, she needs to be like taking care of a baby, but anything more, some people like things that, like if your child has diabetes, it's I have to be aware of this.
We obviously are selective.
I'm
for
sure.
who we
Yeah.
leave her with.
But like, you and your husband go on a date for a night. Can you go
Yeah.
on a week vacation alone?
Yeah,
You're
we
able-
have.
Okay.
We have found an amazing. I mean, we obviously have left her with family. My
Yeah.
sister is taking care of her, both of them, overnight. My sister is in nursing, so she has friends at Primary Children's that
That's
take
nice.
care of kids that have a lot of complexities. And I trust her with my children very much. So
Good.
we've gone on a couple, like, long 5-day vacations without her and left her with people that we trust. And as time goes on, her situation gets more complex. So that will probably lessen.
Really? So it's getting harder.
Yeah. As they grow, then they run into more issues. She has epilepsy. So as a baby, she didn't really have seizures. Now she's starting to have them more. Her medicine, the dosaging can be tricky if you don't really know how to give it to her because it's not just like an average kid. That can be a tricky situation. She requires a special type of food because she can't eat orally like normal foods. She takes
Oh, she can't.
no, she takes a special, not like a toddler type formula, it's like a meal replacement shake, but through bottle.
Really?
And that is, we're like coming to a point where are we struggling eating now? Are we going to have to look into other types of feeding like G-tubes and then obviously with that comes a lot more. So as she's growing older, things are getting more complex. Yeah.
Yeah, and tell us about where you're at right now too with no longer, and maybe it's changed, but you were being refused services or your insurance was no longer going to cover or the hospital you were going to said you can't. Tell us about that a little bit.
So she was going to the local hospital for therapy services. She was doing physical therapy and occupational therapy and feeding therapy. And we got a phone call from the occupational therapist saying because she has a known CMV infection that she can no longer provide services for her or we would have to find another way for her to provide services. So she gave us a couple options, and one of them was being like get gowned up in all the garb. And I was so caught off guard and quite disappointed in the way that she was speaking about it because she had blamed it on CMV. And real quick, side note, with CMV, she was infected with the virus in utero. She was born and the virus was still active in her body, but has since died off. The virus is no longer active. The damage that's been done has been done, and that damage to her brain, all that, will not get worse.
Okay.
Because of it's done, virus dormant now. It stays in your body like mono, those types of viruses, but it could be reactivated, but she's no longer like extremely contagious. Yeah.
More so than any other kid, though.
Any kid who gets CMV is going to be contagious.
Yeah.
And any kid, if they have CMV now, they're way more contagious than Stella. But they're not testing these kids.
Who knows? Any child walking through that door could be way more.
Exactly. So she had blamed it on CMV, and I was just taken aback. Holy cow, are you really telling me that you're not going to give my child services because she's had a CMV virus infection that has been like 2 years? We're 2 years past that.
Wow.
And so I just told her, I'm like, yeah, sure, get gowned up, do whatever you need to. We have therapy tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll be there.
So we show up. She gives her therapy session. And I thought, okay, we'll just continue to do this because it's working until I am in the right mindset to decide how I want to move forward. The next week we go to therapy again. She's gowned up, whatever, gives her session. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to sit with this for a while until I can figure it out. It's Thanksgiving. I don't have time. I do not have time to worry about this right now. She's improving. She's doing great. And we just started a new program. So I was like, let's just continue on. Once we finish the 9-week program, then I'll think further on this. The next week, I get a call from the hospital administration. And they just told me that they cannot provide her occupational therapy services with this therapist any longer. We don't have the option to gown up. Like, that is just out of question. And so here I am frustrated. We just started a new program. We're like 2 weeks into the program. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, she's familiar and comfortable with this therapist. Everything was fine. Why all of a sudden? She's been getting services for 2 years, and now you're telling me that she can't? I'm really confused.
And this therapist had been working with her longer than that time.
She'd been working with her since July.
But had she not ever worked with anyone with CMV before?
No, she had multiple kids with CMV. And I asked her, I said, is she the only one that you're running into this with? And she said no, that she had other kids that they were having to decide, do they want her to gown or do they want to switch therapists? Oh. And so...
Was the therapist pregnant? Like, you could never figure it out. We don't know.
No. And I feel like we had a great relationship with our therapist, so I felt a little bit disappointed. I feel like she would have said something like, hey, look, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pass you off to another therapist. And I would have been totally fine with that. That would have been fine. But it was the fact now we're blaming something on my child having this virus. Mm. But you can't. Like, there are so many kids walking through those doors every day with this virus. My child is not, she doesn't have symptomatic. Her virus is not active. These kids, you have no idea. They might have a runny nose and it's acting like a cold. You're still providing them services.
Yeah. So you run into discrimination.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we've been navigating that, and it's been really frustrating because the hospital keeps denying. They have now sent me the second letter saying they looked at the case again. There's no discrimination. And at this point, they don't want to speak on it further. So now we're stuck at this point of, do I put in the effort to now take legal action? Or do I just drop this because I'm exhausted?
I don't have time for it. Yeah. Oh, what do you do?
And then I'm struggling with, if someone else, this is not the first time this has happened, if someone else would have stood up for all of these kids before, we wouldn't be running into this issue. It's a lack of education with medical professionals. It's a lack of mostly just education. They're not, they're uneducated on CMV and the effects of CMV and all of the nitty gritty that goes into it, and they don't care.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're stuck with that right now, of trying to figure out, do we try to push forward and show them really truly what you just did was discrimination against my child, and until they understand that, or do we just
take our piece and
move somewhere else and find another therapist who's willing to work with our child?
Exhausting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's just
part of
the experience.
Yeah.
So it's just little things like that's been probably the most frustrating part of all of this. So, and two, with that, like, these kids, they require so much equipment just to live daily lives. And insurance only approves so much every 5 years. They are eligible for a new wheelchair, but think about how quickly kids grow in 5 years.
Yeah.
Or like
Especially
they're eligible for a new, like, even just daily tests, like giving her a bath. She requires a special chair in the bath for that. And then we had to go through insurance for that. And it takes weeks to get it approved. And just like things that you don't think about until you're living that reality is just, I don't know. That's been probably the most eye-opening for me, because I didn't realize how tricky navigating the special needs world and insurance and medically complex, and I didn't realize how tricky it was.
Till now.
It became my reality.
Okay, last question. Where have you found the most belonging? The most acceptance, most community? Sounds like you have a really great community, but if there's anything that you want to add that you haven't said.
No, our neighborhood has been great. I do think, Facebook has been a really great place to connect.
Oh, cool.
There's so many people who have kids with CMV, and you don't really see it out and about in your daily life. We don't live by anyone in our neighborhood who has CMV, but there's just like little connections all over the place. My husband has a coworker whose older sister has CMV.
Oh, wow.
Didn't know until just a couple weeks ago. She's 39. Like, just small connections, but Facebook has been a really great place to find community. Just people who understand what you're going through, because their kids are going through similar
experiences.
Yeah. And so that's been amazing. I would say like social media has been the best place for me to connect to other moms who have kids with CMV. So
wow.
Otherwise, I really don't know how I would come in contact with other people
how would
who have
you
gone through that. I don't know.
Go 10 years ago.
Yeah, I really don't know. Luckily, we can use social media for good in that aspect and make connections that way. So that's probably.
I love it. And your community, it sounds like, has just shown up for you.
Oh, they're fabulous. They probably care about me, but they mostly care about Sola. I think they just love her. She's their number one. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's been cool. It's been fun to watch the dynamic change and how everybody has come together to support her and love her. And because we lived in that neighborhood before she was even born, so we have the experience of before and now.
No, it hasn't changed. It's just been stronger.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You're amazing. This has been fun. I'm just like, I think you're such a good mom.
Thank you.
I've learned a lot, so thank you. I'm excited for people to hear your story.
Hi all. Again, thanks for being here with Abby and sitting with her and listening to her story. If you like what Sit With Me is doing, please go leave a comment or subscribe to wherever you listen today, whether it's on Spotify or YouTube or Apple Podcasts. It really helps me in moving this podcast forward. So thanks for being here. See you next time.